Hello, 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 and welcome to another weekly update for Ready Communities. My name is Chad Renando.
And I'm Kerry Grace. And before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and elders, past and present. I'm in Bundjalung country today. Where are you, Chad?
I'm up in Yagara country, up in Ipswich. We were in Grafton and Kempsey this week, Kempsey being our Ready Maclay year one, and Grafton being our year two, as we prepare for the Social Impact in the Regions Conference coming up in September. I mean, we had some really great meetings and conversations this week leading up to it, and in particular, the one that I'm really excited about is the opening panel for the session. And one of the things, Kerry, that is really exciting is that by having this annual conference every year, we can kind of benchmark where things are at when you think about the positioning on place, on social impact in regions. It's actually the title of the conference. When you think about from a policy perspective, from a practitioner, from an application, from all the different views, and the panel is shaping up to be really exciting.
Yeah, we've been really grateful to have the assistance of Natalie Eggleton. Of course, she's the CEO of the FRRR. So the first two panels come under the theme of place, power, and possibility. So there's part one and part two. And what we have designed in doing so is part one is very much about the policymakers and funders of place-based work. And we'll have a conversation completely Q&A. So I don't even have a mechanism to do PowerPoint, so nobody needs to worry about PowerPoint. And that's also a note to the speakers if I haven't told you yet. No PowerPoint, it's not happening. So that gives us a really good opportunity to benchmark how we got to exactly where we are now from a funding and policy perspective. And the second panel, so that's called the system story. The second panel is called the community's call. So that's where we look at from the grassroots. You can say up if you like, but from the grassroots to policy. So what is it like on the community level at the moment? Are things still the same? Are we understanding what place is? What do we need? I'm really excited. I think it's really going to be a great beginning to the conference, and we're grateful for Nat for the support too.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of, and that's going to be able to bring that national, but also that long-term perspective over time, and getting deep into the different aspects of regions. Because it's not just regions; they're all different, and different geographies, different distances, different sizes, and flavors. Yeah, so that's going to be really exciting. Again, Social Impact in the Regions Conference from the 3rd to the 5th of September in Grafton. It's going to be an absolutely amazing experience. And as we've been in Grafton this week and Kempsey, it's really given insights into how we perceive readiness. And just for background, for those who are following along, we look at it from a readiness index of clarity and understanding, connection and connectivity, capability and capacity, collaboration for purpose, and advocacy and promotion. And our view is that if you and enhance those, what we call the enabling conditions, you will get the impacts. Whereas we just focus on impacts like jobs and crime rates or investment, quite often those impacts stop when we stop looking at it, when that funding stops. And so if you get the enabling conditions, it'll produce those. And we are seeing some of that come through. Obviously, Grafton is still midway through. We're seeing those start to form as we work with our impact facilitators. Had some great conversations. We were on a webinar this week by Mission Australia in regards to housing, and about 25, 30 different leaders from across the region focused on the systemic opportunities. And that was really interesting hearing them talk about, look, we can invest in the actual physical infrastructure of housing, but we also need to invest in barbecues and having people want to live there and the other things that we might see as soft aspects. But quite often those aren't funded. It's just, hey, let's plunk down some housing or put people in it, and we assume everything's going to be okay. And some of the other things, South Grafton, that some of the Central Business District activation, having some really good conversations with that about what that might look like. Yeah, and so some of the things that we've been seeing around Grafton have been really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, the week really highlights to me that the process of creating great communities is actually quite a messy business. And there's a lot of different stakeholders. They don't necessarily talk to each other. They're not necessarily motivated to talk to each other or funded to do so. So when we look at those, what we call our enabling factors in the readiness index, it's the baseline skills. I think about it sometimes in my musical practice where I have to stop and learn how to do the theoretical things, where I'd rather just get my drumsticks and bash on the drums and make a hell of a noise. But learning my paradiddles and all the rest of those things enables me to be a bit more logical and structured in what I'm doing. So it gives me those foundational skills, and they're not difficult skills. They're things that people would essentially do as humans living in a society together, but we just forget about them because we get so busy and try to solve problems. I've been thinking a lot this week as well about solving problems through the lens of anger versus solving problems through a more positive vision. And you can overlay that on many things that you see in communities. Obviously, news loves to have a good angry story because it sells more newspapers. And then, we go to Dalaigur Preschool in Dunghutti Country in Kempsey this week, and we just saw the most beautiful, safe, nurturing environment for young people to be in, and it gives you a whole different lens to think about change.
Yeah, that's right. It can be quite stark. And just to call out a couple of topics that were prominent, and sometimes these topics are more or less prominent depending on election cycles. Everything from, say, crime rates, as a potentially a fear-based response, it motivates us to act, feeling unsafe, which, always have to test that against statistics to see exactly how accurate it is, or is it a perception, but also acknowledging for some who are directly impacted, of course, it's a direct perception for them. So having to respect people's lived experiences. The flip side is there might be a narrative, say, we want every young person to have the best, most fully equipped life that they can, starting from when they're born. And that as a vision, which then touches into early childhood and the transition from young people through the different stages of education, and then having viable career pathways in region, out of region, all these other systemic factors in there, which mobilizes a different kind of one. We often talk about a fire under our ass or a fire in our heart, right? And so fire under our ass will get us moving, but then when the fire stops, we kind of settle back down again, and you go from um, one point of your bum burning to another point, and that can be a bit uncomfortable and use a lot of wasted energy, or that aspirational fire in your heart. And again, in communities, it's quite often a yes end. And Kerry, just touching base on one of the other things that you said in terms of kind of sometimes experience some of the conflict through this community change. Um, uh, that's part of the process. As we're here, we are a 2-year program where we support the community through the 10 months leading up to a conference. We have the conference, we support them for the following year, and obviously we'll kind of keep supporting as we need to, both through us and our teams. But it's not going to say it's all perfect and pretty and, oh wow, we did our work and so now the community's fixed. No, because the tension and the challenges and the disagreements and sometimes the anger is part of the process. That is the work, capital W kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think we need to work at it at both ends. So maybe anger is a way to create policy change. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe that's how you rally the troops. I don't know. It's just not my style. Um, I had a rental property years ago. I had 16-year-olds move in and started cooking ice. And you can imagine, I mean, they left a hell of a mess. It was horrible. Like everything about it was horrible. But I didn't decide to hate 16-year-olds. I decided to try and find a way to be able to support a system that otherwise is broken that enables that to happen. And we all have the right and ability to do that as humans living in society. I think we just sometimes get wrapped up in what might seem a quick fix or a quick way to get angry or a quick way to alleviate pain. And I think if we stopped and thought about the opportunity that we have to do things in our community as individual citizens as well as change makers, I think it would be quite a different place that we all live in.
Yeah, I was sitting around a panel, and I'll be a bit abstract in the story, just respecting the story that was told. But there was this conversation around these young people who committed a crime against a person, and that person happened to be a youth worker in the community. Um, but because that person was so well known in the community, and that person knew the young people, right? And they were caught, and that the worker called them on it, but also then engaged with it and then engage with them and actually cleaning up and fixing it afterwards as part of their process. And now those young people are constructive and engaged. But when you listen to that story, there's a lot of facets to it. One of them was that person engaging the young people with where they were, understanding their position, understanding it wasn't the actual act itself, but then what are the motivating factors and all the surrounding system that resulted in that one outcome. But also that person was known that they were in the community. There was that deep connection already. And so there's a lot of around this where it can be very easy to say, oh, for those people or for them. But it's what we found in Kempsey in year one. As soon as it's us, as soon as you have a bit of that empathy and that compassion, you start thinking, oh, and then how does that change some of the activation? So that's why we do talk about those enabling factors, because without those, you're just having intervention after intervention. It doesn't seem to, it just keeps bouncing off, it seems.
Well, I also describe it as band-aid after band-aid, and there's only so many times you can do that before people do get fed up and angry. So I'd really love to see, and I think our work is a lot about nurturing communities to continue to build that positive mindset as well. There's just always going to be problems in communities because that's what clusters of people, that's what happens. But we can pick ourselves up and pick others up in our community in different ways. And one of those ways, I was just reflecting on yesterday. You and I, Chad, both have the privilege of meeting many, many people in our travels every week. And part of the skill set that we bring into the Ready Communities program is being able to know where to link people in. So just yesterday, we created linkages that could really lead to solving some pretty dire issues in the community, which is, it excites me that we have the ability and the good fortune to be able to do that in our work. And I think having a broad view across many communities also heightens the ability to do that. But having a positive mindset and looking at that capability around collaboration for purpose, which is one of the readiness indicators, yeah, it feels like a great privilege to be able to do that, got to say.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's where it can be helpful to uh, have the connection back to some sort of framework, some sort of thinking framework, because it can feel kind of random how all these things happen. Um, Next week, we are back down in Grafton and we have some events coming up. So we are hanging out with Dimity around Regen Labs. And so I'm pretty excited about that one. So we'll be plugging that a little bit through the week. What else is happening next week?
On Sunday, I'm delivering an event management workshop in Grafton. So it's a free workshop. There's no funding's been involved. We just saw a need for it to happen here, and it's kind of aligned to our focus area of social enterprise, where there may be some opportunities for social enterprise involving events and conferences, etc. Also to help to train people into volunteering at social impact in the regions and potentially Jacaranda Festival as well.
Yeah, and that's part of the other part of what we do around the capability capacity. When you go into a community, you see things that are needed if you can deliver them, or if you can enable other people to deliver them. Again, much like Regen Labs coming down and supporting that conversation. Um, uh, yeah, so really looking forward to it. Obviously, we're going to be plugging the Social Impact in the Regions conference coming up 3rd to the 5th of September. That's going to be really big. So really keen to get people down there for that. We're seeing more and more larger foundations come in. Funders are coming in, other people that are actually doing the work. So you really are, by going to that conference, going to be building up. You're going to have greater clarity on who's doing what. You're going to have greater connection with people across Australia, passionate about the same things you're doing. You're going to build your capability capacity and very practical skills in your ability to do it, and potentially how to get funded better as you do it. You're going to find people that you can collaborate for a purpose around the topics and the focus areas on some of the systemic challenges, and you will be able to both advocate for your region, for your cause, as well as hear other people who are promoting and advocating for their things that they want to get done. So it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. And we're so close now. And I just really want to reiterate to the listeners, um, I mean, it's one thing for us to say social impact in the regions isn't a regular conference. Other people say it too, though. It's it's purposely curated in a way that it can offer networking opportunities that normal conferences don't have. So there's different aspects of the conference that we design into it so that it makes collaboration and meeting other people easier. But the other thing is we purposely keep it a small conference. So the maximum amount of tickets is 300. And I mean, that obviously impacts the business model, as does our shop local policy. So it's a conference that probably costs more than conferences always do, but we do that by design so that the experience really accelerates the call of regional change practitioners, and it also enables the people to come to have a very, very different conference experience. It's an immersion activity, full
It
immersion.
is, and just to give you a bit of a taste, we did catch up with Aunty Vicky this week, who is the one who shared about she chose the superhero theme, and it was just amazing to see her energy that she's going to bring into it as she's talking about that theme.
Yawai, Danganue, Gillaviki. Hello, my name's Aunty Vicky. And the reason why I chose superhero theme is because I won the competition. I had the rights. But I'm an early childhood educator and I'm so excited and happy. I want to represent my children at Dalaigur Preschool, my Dalai. That's why, go superheroes!
Go
Think about that
superheroes.
theme.
Oh, Aunty Vicky has so much energy. I wish I could bottle it. And
Yeah.
she's what an amazing woman. She's going to be there for the whole. So Aunty Vicky's an early childhood educator at Dalaigur Preschool as well. And that superhero theme is so much fun.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Well, we'll see you guys in Grafton and Kempsey next week. And obviously, we'll catch up with you, give you guys a bit of an update next Friday. And thank you, everybody, for bringing along on the journey. This is a collective effort that we have, not just across Australia, but the world. So thank you very much for your feedback, your ongoing input. And we're kind of building this together with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you.